How do options work in IUL? Welcome, my name is McCluskey, and I've trained directly under some of the industry's best when it comes to understanding every little nuance in the insurance industry. Today we're going to go over, number one, what are options? Number two, what are the moving parts that affect not only the options pricing, but the budgets? And then third, is this something that I really even need to do within IUL, or could I actually just do it outside of IUL by myself? Let's get into it. First, what are options? So let's say you have a house and I would like to buy it, but I don't want to buy it now, I want to buy it in a year from now. And let's say that that home is worth $100,000. What I can do is I can pay you what would be my options budget, or otherwise the cost of the option. So let's say that that is $5,000. And what that's going to allow me to do is to decide if I want to buy it at the $100,000 price at the end of a year from today. So if the value at the end of a year from today goes up to $120,000, what do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I'm going to buy it at the cost of $100,000 when it's actually worth $120,000? Well, of course, because if I do that, then you lost $15,000 in opportunity cost. Why did you lose that? Because you sold it for $100,000. You also got the $5,000 that I paid you, but it's now worth $120,000 and you're only selling it for $100,000, technically $105,000 if you include the options budget. Now, what happens if that options budget drops to, or the cost of the house drops to $80,000? Do you think I'm going to buy it for $100,000 if it's worth $80,000? No, of course not. So I'm not going to buy the home, but you get to keep the $5,000. So in that case, you gained the money and I didn't end up buying the home. Why would I buy the home for $100,000 when I could buy the home for $80,000? Now that's options. How does that work within an insurance company though? So you have a cash value, assuming you are maximum funding the policy and it's properly structured. Again, let's assume that cash value is $100,000. Well, we know they're going to, based on their general account portfolio rates, they're going to credit to you a fixed rate. So let's say that fixed rate is 4%. So they're going to credit you $4,000, right? So you can either just choose to keep that $4,000 and now you have $104,000 and that's going to continue to compound. Or you can take that $4,000 and say that's going to be my options budget and I'm willing to put that towards options. So you have $100,000 in cash value, you had an options budget of $4,000, and that options budget is then going to be able to buy you a certain cap. So let's say it's a 1 year point to point and it's on the S&P 500 index. So if that buys you a cap of 10%, then at the end of the year, you can decide if you want to exercise that option. So if the S&P 500 goes up 10%, do you think that you're going to say, yes, I would like to have that $10,000 instead of the zero? Well, of course you are. Well, if the S&P 500 goes down 20%, do you think you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to act as if my $100,000 was in there when it went down 20% when I could otherwise just end up with $100,000 again? Of course not. So that's how it works within an IUL policy. Now, second thing to go over is you might have noticed I said you can buy a cap rate. What are the moving parts that actually determine how high that cap rate is I can buy? There's two things. So number one is the rate that we are getting credited. So this is going to depend on the insurance company's general account portfolio. So if they're earning an average of 7%, they might be able to credit up to 6%. If their general account portfolio is only gaining 4 or 3% because let's say double and triple A bonds are doing much lower, treasuries are way lower, interest rates are lower, if they're earning a much lower percentage, well, we're going to have less money to buy a cap with. So first is the rate we're getting credited. That's going to depend on the general account portfolio, which is then in turn going to depend on how much they actually give us. The second thing here, so that was number one. The second thing here is the cost of the options. So this actually varies too. And the cost of options is mainly going to vary based on volatility. So this is going to depend on, it's going to be like the VIX index in the Yahoo Finance or wherever you want to look it up. Based on how volatile the market is, that's also typically going to be the main indicator of how options prices are fluctuating. So number one, you have the rate we're getting credited. Why? Because that determines how much money we actually have to buy options. And then two, the cost of the option. So this is going to be based on generally volatility. And those are the two things that are going to be able to determine not only how much we can allocate towards a higher cap, but also the cost of the caps. And hey, even if we have way higher or way bigger options budget, does it really matter if the price of the options went way up? Ideally, we have a large options budget and the cost of options are cheap. Therefore, we can buy a much bigger cap. Third and finally, people will often understand this concept and then go as far to ask, well, why can't I just do this on my own? Or could I do this on my own? And while there's a lot of ways to answer that, the simplest way is that since insurance companies are buying these options in such massive bulk, they're getting massive discounts on the money. So it's just like if you were going to buy 1 gallon of lemonade at the store for your lemonade stand, you're probably going to have to pay the price that is on the tag at the store. If you wanted 1 billion gallons, you could probably go directly to the company and they'd probably be able to cut you a discount. Same thing here with the options. So can you? Maybe. Is it smart? I don't think so. Hopefully this was helpful. If you learned something and have been considering IUL for a while and are thinking, all right, maybe I've found someone that I can trust that's going to answer all of my intricate questions and isn't just going to throw me in some sort of improper policy, book a quick consult below. It's 20 minutes with me. I'm more than happy to do that, kind of go through things and see if it just might make sense for you. Bye-bye.